Well, in this video I'm going to show you what we're talking about when we say that we're going to give this 1974 VW Beetle free with the purchase of the installed conversion system. And so I'm going to show you both. We'll show you the vehicle, which is, like I said, this 1974 VW Beetle. It's a standard Beetle, not a Super Beetle. We purchased it in 2008 and converted it to electric. The paint and upholstery, all the cleanup stuff was done in 2009, 2010, the winter of 2009, 2010. And the first show that it was in after it was painted and everything was in April 2010. And then it did the show thing in the western U.S. until June of 2012. When the CALB CA took over the responsibilities for as our marketing vehicle. And that was until the end of 2019 when we sold that vehicle as a rolling chassis, and we took the conversion components out of the CALB CA and put them in this. See, in 2008, this was originally converted using a series wound DC motor and lead acid batteries. It was later upgraded to lithium batteries, but it was still the series wound DC until the end of 2019 when we upgraded to the current AC conversion. And we also popped out the cells that were in the CALB CA and put them in this one also. So anyway, that's what we're selling. We're selling the electric propulsion system. And it's attached to this vehicle, and so we're including the vehicle with the propulsion system. So tailpipes are just for discussion. You remember when we did this, there weren't too many electric cars out there in 2008. It was really a novelty. And today, you know, everybody and their brothers doing this. Well, we did it for over 15 years. So what you see here is the High Performance Electric Vehicle Systems AC-51. It's 88 horsepower and 108 pound-feet of torque from 0 RPMs all the way to 4,800 RPMs. And coupled with this Freeway Flyer Transaxle, this vehicle will cruise comfortably at interstate speeds without issue. And the speedometer goes to 100, it will bury the speedometer. The three-phase AC induction motor that I mentioned a minute ago is coupled to a Curtis 1239 inverter controller, and it's 500 amps. We're running 44 of the CALB CA Series 100 amp hour cells for a nominal voltage of about 146 volts, 144 volts, something like that. And then It's a 14.5 kilowatt hour pack. Gives this vehicle a range of 50 to 60 miles, depending on the temperature, the terrain, your driving habits, speed, all those things. All of our vehicles are done in a modular fashion, so when this was DC, of course it was a different controller, had a different throttle, everything was different. But you unbolt this component board, it's an aluminum component board, which is offset from the firewall. You unbolt that. Of course, you have to disconnect some wires here, some cables, the throttle, but all that is real quick and easy, and then this component board comes out as a unit. And of course, just like the gasoline powered VWs, 4 bolts and the motor comes out also. So very modular if somebody wanted to make any changes or whatever, although none are necessary. The only thing I could think of somebody might want to change, you might want to go to larger cells and go to a larger battery pack, and that would be very easy to do, as the current setup. Boy, I'll have to open the door, but anyway, it's just in this area where the back seat would be. This vehicle didn't have a rear seat when we got it, and at the time I didn't want one, so it didn't hurt my feelings, because using the lead acid, we had lead acid batteries where the seat would go. We had lead acid batteries behind the seat, which is now just an empty storage area if you wanted it to be, and then also where the fuel tank was, which is now, there's nothing there. So anyway, now there's just those 44 cells. They don't take up much room. It's 308 pounds sitting in front of the rear axle. It makes this car handle very nice, ride very nice. It would ride better if the suspension were stock. The guy that we purchased this from, the guy who put the Freeway Flyer Transaxle in it, the guy who put the wider fenders and the running boards and all that, he also lowered this thing. We didn't do anything when we got the car. We were just using it as a marketing vehicle, so we didn't bother changing the suspension. But what we did do is we put all new bearings, brakes, and it has 4-wheel disc brakes, a heavy-duty anti-sway bar in the front, new tie rod ends, ball joints, all of that we did, so that we could drive the car without any thought for its roadability. So on a rough road, it's a rough ride. On a smooth road, it's a beautiful ride. So there are roads that I drive on that are kind of rough, and it's it's not the smoothest riding car because of the lowered suspension. But boy, on smooth surface streets and on the interstate, it's just a blast to drive. So few more things. It's got a heavy-duty cooling system. You could see the coolant reservoir right there, and it has a chill plate that is mated to the base of the controller, but it goes through, leaves your reservoir, goes through a pump, through your chill plate, through a cooler, and then through a radiator, and then back. And this thing has been, when it was in the Carmen Ghia, it was raced numerous times, ran cool. The biggest challenge in cooling where we live isn't the racetrack. It's driving down the interstate at 80 miles an hour when it's 118 degrees outside. And this setup did it. Both motor and controller run cool. And we have an offset on the deck lid. One, back in the 70s when I had lots of vehicles, that was something we did for cooling. So it's kind of the nostalgic aspect, but also it does help direct cooling air to that motor. These are 2.5-inch wider fiberglass fenders with matching running boards. These are the ones that when they're advertised, they show a guy holding a barbell over his head while standing on the fender. So these are the best aftermarket fiberglass fenders that they make. They were on the vehicle when we purchased it. I'm kind of a purist. I wanted to go back to stock, but everybody said, no, 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 no. It's going to be a marketing vehicle. Leave that. That makes it different. Okay. It didn't have any bumpers. Well, actually, it had a front bumper, but it didn't have a rear bumper. So we took off the front bumper and just deleted the bumpers. And then on the front, where the stock bumper went, it's located, we had those little kind of triangular holes. We had the body shop take and make them round, and we put some LED turn signals in the front there. Well, let's see. Let's take a look at the interior. There's a 2.5 kilowatt hour charger, onboard charger. There's a J1772 charge port, and a there's a DC to DC converter. It's underneath the battery box, and on the opposite side of where the battery is, the batteries where the stock battery was, we have a smaller one in there now, AGM battery. And then on the other side of the tunnel, on the driver's side, is the DC to DC converter. You can see the interior is a light gray, and it's a tweed, cloth material with black and chrome accents. That's the seat, the headliner. It's got, the mirrors new, the visors, all of the gaskets, so forth. The seats have new padding, new upholstery, so forth. And of course, carpet. New dash pad. Let's walk around to the other side here and take a look at the gauges. We put a new windshield in this thing. The rest of the glass is original. So we have 3 gauges here. That's the best thing there. I think this is a better angle, less glare. And so we have pack volts, we have DC amps, and we have 12 volt gauge. I like the analog gauges. This is the Curtis 840 display, and this was what monitors the motor and controller, and it shows you RPMs, volts, amps, motor temperature, controller temperature, minimum voltage, and maximum amps. And then we also, down underneath, we have the JLD 404, which is monitoring the battery pack. And that (144.5 volts) is the current voltage reading. This has been sitting for quite a while because I don't drive it when the weather's bad, so this doesn't get driven on the wet roads or in the rain, just because I don't want another vehicle to clean. It's got a nice stereo system, and you saw the 6x12 triaxial speakers in the rear. We've got an emergency disconnect. That's left over from the DC days. Our DC conversions featured a bunch of fail safes, and one of those was an emergency disconnect. And so this is reachable by both the driver and passenger. So with the DC system, they can fail in a full throttle scenario. The AC won't do that. So with AC conversions, we just use what we call a maintenance disconnect or a service disconnect. But these were always located or connected in some way that could be manually disconnected as the last resort if you had a problem. We had 4 or 5 layers of safety in the DC setups, and most of that was just passive. I mean, the driver didn't even realize he was activating safety things. But this was, like I said, last resort. We just left it when we converted over to AC. Let's take a look in the back here. Okay, that's the battery box. So I understand it's not the most coveted year. It's not in 1967. And so, but for free, you know, all you have to do is pay for the conversion package. And if you were to buy one right now, we currently charge, and I know others are charging this much and more, but for a 100-mile range. But with the high-performance electric vehicle systems AC-50 or the Hyper 9 motor, those are going for $30,000. We sell them for $29,995. So that's for the conversion. That's installed, which this is. So the price that we're asking with the car thrown in, I think it's a pretty good deal myself. You know, you probably noticed here that the wheels and tires are wider in the rear than they are in the front, and that's because of the fenders and everything. You kind of had to work with what we had. So you can see it's got a lot of rubber on the back. That's not great for range. But it sticks to the road. Let me tell you, this thing go around. This hugs a corner pretty good, which is part of that fun factor. So, alrighty. Hope everybody's well and enjoying the drive.